Forbes Books presents Leading What Matters Most, the podcast that helps you change behaviors, improve performance, and unlock the potential of your people. Here's Phil Geldart.
I'm back with Dottie Belletto, the founder and CEO of NOCCI, a leader in hospitality and destination management with over 35 years of experience serving the meeting and events industry in New Orleans. Dottie, one of the things that struck me in the first part of our chat is that you clearly have a high belief in the importance of teams, respect for the individual, and the very important nature of great communication. So, do you consciously try to build that belief system into your team? Or do you look for it when you're recruiting and bringing on new team members? Or perhaps you do both?
It's really interesting, Phil, because when we are recruiting or we're going to do a new hire, we are so close-knit that I think it doesn't work for some. They're not everybody's comfortable with sharing, and that's understandable. I'm perfectly fine with that. And I do.
By sharing, you mean being open to the kind of communication?
Open,
yeah.
yes,
Okay.
Their team members and getting to know them. People like to do business with you if they like you, right? I mean, and people aren't going to do business with people they don't really like or they're not nice to them. So that's a big thing of mine. It's all that personality. It's that inward. How do you react to new people? How do you react to because that's how you react to clients, because there's going to be new clients constantly. There's some challenges we've had. One challenge is right now I'm working with someone that is it's been very hard for even me to break through to get to know them. And so I've done it on a one-off, and she's contracting, and she's in charge, totally in charge of what her program is. And she does a great job. And she's totally in charge, and she doesn't bring anybody into it from the team. She does a fabulous job. Now, the question becomes, do I keep that value? How do we work with it? How does it come in? So right now, it's pretty fresh, but every project that she's worked with, the team now, in fact, today, they went all together. I was going to be there, but I had my podcast, but I wasn't planning to be there. These are some of the things I do.
Yeah.
And I called last night. I said, why don't you all call, this new team member and invite her to be there? And that was my plan. So they would socialize. So they're at a luncheon now. And as I understand, having a great time. They checked in with me to make sure I was good. But there are different ways that you can do that. So if somebody's a little bit more awkward in doing that, then I try to put them in situations that the team members can see them in a different light, right? And then, and then work towards working together. We'll see. I mean, it's a work in progress. But one of the other things is that we just never give up. I mean, there's always answer for everything, and there's always a direction that you can take that can be a win. Winning and being successful are two things that is really important to my company, and that is not said outwardly that often. But we are consistently successful without. I don't like to preach. I don't like to push. Goals are good, but personal goals and how that comes into the workplace and being successful, I don't really have to talk to them about that because it's just innate. I mean, that's who they are. They want to be successful. They want the win. And when it's like a football team, when you're number one team and you're winning all the time, sometimes I think, oh my goodness, are they going to understand how to deal with the loss? We've had, I don't know, not many, but and I'm not being, please take this in the right way it's meant. We all have losses in life. Yes, personal losses, etc. We have put proposals out there, and we were not chosen for that particular program. So that's happened. The team sees that effort going into it and not being at least in the top two, and they feel that. I don't have to say anything about it because right there the next week, there's a win, so they go out there. That's their incentive. Okay, what did we do, not do? And they talk to the clients too to find out. I don't have to tell them that. They talk to those that will let us know what could we have done better. Was it price point? Was it this or that? So winning is important to this team. And where did they get that? It's just innate. I mean, I think that this team came together and they are a family, and they're a family of winners. I don't know how to say any better. I think that they're incredible.
I would think that they're probably picking that up from you and your commitment to achieve in that direction. I think you are bringing the best out of them. It doesn't sound to me like it's innate as much as your beliefs, your values, your trust in them, your commitment to them, the way in which you communicate with them. All of those things are creating in them a sense of confidence that then allows them to go and win. But it would seem to me, and because you talk about being out there kind of on the field with them, and it would seem to me that as if we're looking what it is that makes a great leader, it's the way you approach these folks. It's the way you value them. It's the respect you have for them as individuals. And I constantly feel that in today's world, leaders do not value those things. They don't value the importance of being on the field with the player, of showing respect, of giving them opportunity. So it's perhaps less innate and more the fact that as their leader, they are picking up these values and commitments from you, and at the same time learning how to bring them actually into play. So it's not merely aspirational. They're able to watch what you do and then say, okay, I get it. If we do those things, we can win. It would just seem to me that we don't want to underplay the role of the leader here, in this case you, with your team. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you for that. Sometimes it's hard to look outside ourselves, right? And when you asked me to do this and we were going to have this conversation, it was like, do I have the knowledge to be able to share? I mean, I do appreciate it because it helps. And everyone that listens to this podcast, I think it's so important just to take a minute to appreciate yourselves and every leader that's out there and has companies and people they're responsible for and families they're responsible for. I take a very serious approach to that. I've never had to let somebody go because they weren't living up to the company's standards to the point where they were valuable enough to bring in the money to pay themselves, or the cash flow wasn't there. I've never, ever had to worry about that. I'm very proud of that fact. I think that we all as leaders, we're only as good as our team that surrounds us, number one. Number two, respecting that team member, and then, not taking care of your responsibilities as far as finances, and then having to let somebody go because you can't afford the payroll. I mean, that I think happens, and it's just, it's always a step back for entrepreneurs. You've got to not go too fast. You've got to think through it. You've got to have a solid foundation and have the passion to want to get to the end of the day. And I think that has a lot to do with having people that stay with this company. I mean, have people that have never had another job. They came in right when they got out of school, and they have seen this. They have seen that they don't have to worry about getting their paychecks. They don't have to worry about the finances of it. And they get out there and they do their job, and they do a great job. And that's what's been able to keep us moving. But entrepreneurs, I just want to say, be careful. I mean, there are ways that you can go down real quick. If you've got, it's all about, you can create something. Just make sure that when you create it, you have a budget that's outlined right next to it, because you don't want to go out there and sell something that you can't afford to do. I've always been very conscious about that. And that's another thing for team members and leaders is you've got to show a solid company, and you have to be open about that. There are some things that you keep to yourself, and your CPA keeps to them. But overall, I mean, salaries and bonuses and things like that is separate and apart. There's individuals. But overall, my team knows, we look at the budgets together. They know what the price point is. They know how they need to make sure that the time they put into that project is paid for. And they're part of that planning. And that goes back to the ops orders. They are all part of their planning. They're almost independent event planners that have their own companies, but they're learning how that you have to have is that there's not a separate person doing their budgets. They do their budgets based on the event that they've created. And I've seen it so much in our business that, planners will think they have all this money in the bank, but they forget they've got to pay all these vendors that took care of the client. And then they're just, they get themselves in trouble. And I always had a separate account for each. I did it, sort of interestingly, but I just, in my brain, I just had every account had the client, and no money was taken out at the end of the day. But I went off on that. I'm sorry.
That's good. As you chat, Dottie, I think, and again, I've been part of your team there, but I think that if someone were to watch you in action, they would think that things just happen. You're just there and you pay attention. But I think there's a great deal more intentionality to what you do than may appear at the surface. And I highlight that again, because I think great leaders make it look effortless, and people don't realize the degree to which they are intentionally thinking about, am I communicating the right way? Am I committing my beliefs? Am I sharing? So a lot of what looks effortless actually takes a tremendous amount of effort behind the scenes to be the kind of great leader that you need to be, which is probably why there aren't that many great leaders. But when you are, it shows up when you think about the things you've just been sharing, your people taking initiative, being able to take ownership, having a conviction around winning, it's amazing. But it just didn't happen by accident. Even though it may look to someone superficially, there's actually a lot that goes on behind that. That's very cool. Let me shift gears for a minute, Callie, because I'd like to talk a little bit about the culture within your organization and how you go about building the culture. So we've talked about the people and the way in which they do things. But when we were chatting earlier, you were talking about things like, open office and cross-pollination and everybody taking a bit of ownership. So clearly you have some elements that make up the culture that allows the individual to flourish. So chat a little bit about that for us, if you would.
Well, we did. We were in another office space, and the team wanted to get closer to downtown area. So that was fine for me. We moved in, and I immediately walked the space. We were on the top floor, and we were lots of windows because that's really important for a good environment. And we were overlooking the Caesars Superdome, which we do a lot of business in there, and Champion Square, and right across the street from City Hall, because we do a lot of permitting and for every event we do. And the first thing we did was tore down the walls. Too many walls. We just tore down the walls, and then had soft seating and had a conference table when we needed it, but had a lot of soft seating. We made the environment ours that could be comfortable for the team. We were in that environment for 5 years. And then, of course, COVID hit, and then everybody got used to being in their home offices. So we'd come back to the office a couple of days a week, and now people really enjoy their home offices. And I'm going with the flow right now. I have to tell you, Bill, it's not that particular way of working. I need to be next to the team. I need to.
I'm with you there. Yeah.
Feel and interact. And I'm going to give them a little bit more time. We still have the office. I will not give the office up. I'm pulling them in for meetings. And when we're together, It's like we had breakfast buffet. We had that this week, and with our debrief from our last event, and everybody just sort of enjoyed being together. So I'm working on a program. We'll see how that's going to roll, but it's a little bit more challenging to keep them close so that I, can stay in touch with them. There's something that's lost in these home offices, and I think that we're going to be coming back to the office in the future. I think that, leaders and team members are going to see that it's not all that, maybe home a couple of days a week, but coming together is where that creativity comes from. We're in the creative world. We create things. So anyway, I got off key. I'm sorry, Phil, you asked me a question.
Well, I know, but I agree with you. It's an element of the culture is the interaction among the human beings, not just on the communication side. You can get the communication down, but that doesn't give you all the nuance and the opportunity to just quickly stand up and put something on a whiteboard or share something. You don't get the body language. You don't bump into each other when you're going to get a coffee. I agree. I think there's a great deal that is lost when you're not physically. Human beings are designed to be social. So it looks like it's more productive virtually, and there's clearly a component that does if you've got kids and you got to pick them up at school or something. But it is not, as a standalone with nothing but virtual, I feel it is less productive than if you can be together. So I think if you talk about culture, you need that.
I'm going with the flow right now. I mean, I'm giving them time. It's like with children. They think they want to have it, and you just let them experience it. Oh, it's not as good as I thought it was, And if I said, no, we're not going to do that straight up, well, that would have been a negative, and that's not the way I operate, So I need to have them experience it. I have more experience on my side of the equation, so I sort of know what's going to happen here, and I'm just going to hold off a little bit longer and see, And whatever they decide to do, I'm going to be, but I will have a place that will come together at least once or twice a week, because that's just too important. As long as I am, president, CEO, and owner of this company, I'm sorry, I'll have to be a little selfish because I miss my team and I want to be with them, and they will too. It's just I need to give them a little space. I've got, these younger ones getting married and all the stuff that goes along with that. I'm giving them, what they need. I'm giving them the time they need. And that's also part of being a leader. I've invested in this team a lot. And that's where you have to look at it. It's an investment in the time and energy that you put into it. And I am very committed to that investment, and that the time and energy that we spend learning and putting things together, and they as well are invested in it, and that they have stayed. I mean, everybody, I have one that's getting married. She was an intern with us. And then I told the girls, I said, you've got to get her back. She graduated from LSU. And she's been with us now for the years go by so quickly, it's hard to do. She's been there for 4 years now, graduated from LSU, came straight into the company once again, and hasn't had another job. And then called me a couple of weeks ago and said, I just wanted you to know that somebody's called me and they're scouting for a new person at this place, and they really want me to come over there. And she said, I'm teary-eyed. When I told my mother, she said, they're wasting their time. We would never leave Dottie.
Yeah.
Those are the moments.
Sure.
That you appreciate, because this is a 20-something young woman. And that age group is really, they know what they want, but you have to work with them, You have to understand where they're coming from. And the fact that she said that, and the fact that she knew in the marketplace that I probably was going to hear about it, and she wanted to make sure that I wasn't hurt by it, but also that she would not be going.
Well, that's a living example of the culture. people talk about culture and how it's really the behaviors of the people, the sum total of what everybody does. That is a reflection of commitment, transparency, honest communication, so it's a wonderful thing, as opposed to saying, I've taken a job, I'm leaving tomorrow, I'm sorry.
It's truly a blessing to have the relationships and the work quality. Oh my gosh, just they teach me now, because things are different out there in the world and working with vendors and doing things, but they've taken the family unit of the office and have extended it out to the vendor world. So vendors, whether it be sound and lights, whether it be catering, whether it be whatever the decor, they come into it and they bend over backwards for these, for these event planners of the company, because they treat them, as if they were the president of the company. They treat that vendor. And that's one of the other things we've always said, is that, these are the people that are working for us to make us look good, to make the client look good. And we are to always respect them in any way we can. And as a result of that, and that's part of our mantra, so to speak, is that, we have vendors that have been with us the company's 37 going on 38 years, they've been with us for more people are getting ready to retire. That's the problem. Now they've got to go out and find, create new vendors. But it's sort of that multiplier effect, which is I'm just loving it. I'm loving the fact that they're just not here. They're not just internal. They've externalized this entire message to others. It's really pretty cool.
That is cool. So I think, Dottie, one of the things that I am hearing as you think about your leadership, your people, the commitment to the vendors, the commitment to the clients, it would seem to me that keeping the big picture in mind is very important for you and your team. Is that something you intentionally pay attention to, and helping people see the big picture so they understand how they fit into the whole? And if so, why do you feel that that's so important?
Well, ultimately, we all come together on the vision and buy into that. And we have a conversation about that for each event. And I know when they bought into it, they get excited. And then they go about the business of just like pieces of pie, pulling it apart, getting all the pieces and parts together. So it always starts with the bigger picture in our world. What is our purpose? What are the results that we need to have here? What does the client want? And creating that vision that is then shared with that client. If it's an event that we're personally putting on, and then we're creating that vision, it is the bigger picture. Some people can't see it totally until they get down to the pieces and parts, to the details. But you know what? You've got to have a little mix. You've got to have diversity in your team. You've got to have some of those that are very detailed people, and you've got to have the dreamers, that come up and see that whole picture. And diversity is another thing that we haven't spoke to, but cultural diversity is really important. We need to understand all aspects of life globally now, because we are working in a global environment. And so having diversity on your team is most important. And I'm very proud of that fact. We have a lot of diversity. So that helps us to see, as you say, how do they see? Do they all see the vision first? Or it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of, because I can see my people over here trying to figure out, oh goodness, here she goes again, and we got to make it work. And then the others who are going, oh great, that sounds great. Oh my, I can't wait. So you have to have a nice balance all the way through. And they always come into it. They always get excited when they figure out the details and they say, okay, that can work. It's like engineers. People think we're party planners and what all they have no idea. It's a science. Events and creating events and doing the work we do is a science. And an engineer mind here, a scientific mind here, it's all of those things pulled in together. And as you said in the beginning, Phil, nobody wants to see the back of house because I don't think they could understand it, what it takes to bring it forward and to have a successful event for our clients.
As I listen to you, I feel that your appreciation for the value of your team is high, and they must see that. I think appreciation that you show for them has got to be a key component as to one of the key elements of your culture, that you don't take them for granted, that you value them and you respect them for that, but you share it intentionally with them.
Absolutely. And the two earlier ones have been with me for almost, I think it's probably 20 years now. They're twins. And so they came in together, and I'll never forget, their father came to me, he's a cardiologist, and he said, look, my girls just graduated from the best college there is, and they could go out and be accountants and CPAs, and they could make a lot of money. But no, they wanted to work with Dottie and NOCCI. And he said, they love you. And he said, because of that, I love you. He said, but I got a deal for you. You got to hire both of them. You can't just take one. The girls were in a hotel room waiting for him to get back and not wondering what was going to happen. At that time, I was, young entrepreneur. We were settled in pretty much, but hiring two, I hadn't planned on that, right? Those are the things that you do. And thank goodness, because they have been the pillars and have generated so much goodwill throughout. They have magnetized, and that's why we just have wonderful people that come to us and want to be part of us. And I have one gentleman that thought he wanted to be in politics, and he went off and he did that. Then he left his original job, and I said, come over and stay with us for a little while till you get it. We've got a couple projects you work on. Just brilliant young man. And then he said, okay, well, I'm going to leave because I'm going to go over and work with this congressman. I said, okay, well, that's great. I'm really, loved working with you. I'm supportive, whatever you need to do. He goes and works with him, but it wasn't like 2 months later, he's calling me. He said, you know what? I think I want to come back. It was like I always say, you coming back home? He said, yeah, I'm coming back. He said, but it was good. He's 20-something. He had to see all aspects of it. We leaders need to allow that, because when you see great talent, you want to, go after it, but you want to give them the opportunity to make sure it's really what they want. You've got to give these 20-somethings and 30s, you've got to let them go out there and check out the world. And I've had quite a number of people who have come back and that's stayed with us, I always worry about my two that started with me and never had another job. I'm always telling them, no, you sure you don't want to go out there and try something new? No, we're fine. We're fine. But would you like to get into the company? You've been with the company a while. Would you like to maybe think about taking my, being part of the succession plan? No, we love operations. We don't want to get into all that other stuff, It is really sort of interesting, and you have to be flexible and you have to, I don't try not to push on them, but, and take them where they are. And they continue to grow and beyond your expectations if you just give them a little bit. You just give them a little bit.
Well, Dottie, this has been very, very fun and very insightful. You are the model of a great leader, and I think you've really helped understand why. It's not something that happens by accident. There's a lot of thought that goes into that. Your care for your people, your understanding of them, your understanding of where they're at, being part of their lives. I think all of those things, and it in your case, it's just so obvious. It shows in the trust that your clients have in you, the fact that they're constantly coming back, and that you're so well respected, that it's a true example of great leadership producing great results. So having you on the podcast has been spectacular, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. I've enjoyed it.
And if you're in and around New Orleans and you're looking for an events management company, you can find out more about Dottie's team at nocci.com. And that's it for this episode of Leading What Matters Most. Please make sure to leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and don't forget, hit subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.
This has been Leading What Matters Most with Phil Geldart. If you want to create a culture that drives performance and develop leaders that inspire and motivate, go to philgeldart.com. Leading What Matters Most is a production of Forbes Books.